Good evening, sisters and brothers, and welcome to this Wednesday edition of Smart Church. I want to welcome all of you who are joining us this evening. Thank God, as always, we thank God for all of you for giving us time in your consciousness that we might share together in the Word. My computer is telling me that it is time, as we say, that we get down to the get down of studying the Word of God together. We appreciate every one of you who's joining us. Perhaps you stumbled on to or scrolled on to this particular broadcast, or somebody invited you and you came here on purpose. All of you who are our visitors, we appreciate you joining us. Would you please do us a favor and type into the chat box, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, type the word connect, and someone from our team will contact you at a later time so that we can tell you more about Elm Grove and the fact that we are about making divine connections. We would appreciate you doing so as we are trying to reach as many people as we possibly can via this medium. What's up to the Elm Grove and New Canaan families? Thank God for you. I said families, I should say family, for we are all one Father's children. We appreciate you being a part as well. If you know that your guest is joining us, why don't you give them a shout out in the chat box if you don't mind, and if they don't mind, whether you are visiting or you are a regular, we ask that if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, would you please do so by simply hitting the subscribe, clicking on the subscribe button. Also, would you please share this broadcast on your various social media platforms. And don't forget that thumbs up icon on YouTube. Those of you who are watching on Facebook, what's up to all of you as well? Please start a watch party for us. Be sure to hit the like or the thumbs up button. And please share this particular broadcast on your page as well. Whatever you do, let somebody know that we are on. You might need to text someone. You might need to call someone. You might even need to go in your own home and shake somebody and let them know that we are on and they need to hear what God has to say through the teaching of His word. This we call smart church, and we always like to remind people that this is not about the shouting. This is about digging in and learning. We take our time. We ask questions when we have questions. We try to go through and parse the verbs, if you will. We do all that we can to get a greater understanding of the word in our smart church. We say that there are a lot of people and a lot of churches doing a lot of great things. But as it relates to the Word of God, we are going to be a smart church, because when you're a smart church, then not only do you know the Word better, but you also do the Word better. And when you do the Word better, then when we come together, whether it is virtual or when we come back in person, the shout is more genuine, the shout is more authentic. And so that's why we determined that we will come in and we will take our time and study the word here on Wednesday nights. Now, you know how we roll, man. I need somebody to let me know via the chat box or by texting me some way, somehow. Let me know that we're good, that you can see me clearly, that you can hear me clearly, because I certainly want us all to be on the same page when we begin our study. I see you all rolling in, saying hello to everyone. I appreciate that. Good evening to everybody. Thank you so much. Uh, Let me know, please, sir and ma'am, if we're good. Can you hear me? Can you see me well? I would appreciate you letting me know before we get into the study, of the word. If you would please put it in the box or text me so that we can know. If you can, please join us in the book of Hebrews tonight. We're still talking about perseverance, hanging in there, being tough right in the midst of troubled time. So if you would please join us in Hebrews chapter 10, verses 32 through 39. Hebrews chapter 10, verses 32 through 39. I see that you all are still saying hello to everyone. I need somebody to let me know if we're good, if you can hear and see me all right. If you would, please. If you can't, then let me know that too. Good evening, Carla Bryan from the Atlanta area. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I promise you I won't waste your time or try my best not to anyway. Uh, hey, good evening. Still waiting. I'm going to move on slowly, and hopefully everybody can hear me and see me. All right. If you can't, then please shout out. If you can, then please shout out because I want to make sure that we are on the same page. Again, Hebrews chapter 10. And I want you to mark in your holy scriptures 32 through 39. But since that is such a lengthy passage of scripture, I'm only going to read our uh, focal scriptures for tonight, and that is verses 35 through 36. Let me say that for you again. Please mark in your holy scriptures for your personal devotion and reading time. Hebrews chapter 10, verses uh, 30, verses 32 through 39. And for our sake tonight, I will only read verses 35 through 36. Tell you what, Sheila Hawkins, if you can hear and see me all right, please put it in the box for me and let me know. I would really appreciate that. So that I will know. Hello, Sister Robillard. I see you. Thank you so much for joining us. Uh, so that I will know. Hebrews chapter 10, verses 35 and 36. This is the new King James version. It says, "Therefore, do not cast away your confidence, which has great reward, for you have need of endurance, so that after you have done the will of God, you may receive the promise." Let me read that for you again. Um, therefore, therefore, do not cast away your confidence, which has great reward, for you have need of endurance, so that after you have done the will of God, you may receive the promise. Now, as always, I encourage you to both keep your sacred scriptures open as we study, and also keep with you some apparatus that you might be able to take notes, whether you write them in a notebook or on a piece of paper, or whether or not you put them in the notes section of your uh, in the notes section of your phone or your tablet. Whatever you do, take notes, because I promise you the same spirit that teaches me and speaks to me as I pour out to you will also speak to you concerning particular situations of your life. So here we go again. We're looking at Hebrews chapter 10, verses 32 through, thank you all so much, through 39. Uh, First of all, we like to lay the groundwork, so check it. As we're talking about the book of Hebrews, as I've taught you almost as many times as we have looked at this particular epistle, remember that even though there's a lot of evidence that suggests Paul wrote this particular letter, and there's some evidence that Silas wrote this particular letter, and there's some evidence that this is a pseudonym, that some anonymous person wrote this but tried to make it sound like Paul so that their letter would be read. We really don't have conclusive evidence of the author. Remember that. We don't have conclusive evidence of who the author of this particular epistle, treatise, letter is. What we do know, though, is that this the author has an extensive knowledge of the Old Testament, and more particularly has extensive knowledge of Old Testament Messiah prophecies. Let me say that for you again. We don't know the author, but what we know, thank you so much for letting me know that you see and hear me. Uh, what we don't know the author, but what we understand is that through the writings is that this particular writer has an extensive knowledge of the Old Testament and more particularly of the prophecies concerning the Messiah in the Old Testament. Here's something else. The recipients of this letter were not going through clear skies and smooth sailing. It was a rough time. It was a dark time for the believers. There were a few reasons why. Let me talk about them for you. Put these in your notes because every time you read the book of Hebrews, it will give you a better understanding of why things were said the way they were said. First of all, it's written to people who have a Jewish background, right? But these are former Jews who heard the gospel of Jesus Christ and believed in the Christ. Now, here's the thing. At this time, what we call Christianity was considered a Jewish sect or a different part of Judaism. There was no separation of Christianity and Judaism. Christianity was considered like a sub Judaism. And during this particular period in the first century, Judaism was under attack all over the world, right? And so the Jews were scattered, what we call diaspora. You've heard that term before, connected with people from African ancestry in this day and time. How it is that we are spread uh, all all over the globe. So the Jews are spread all over the then known world. They are under attack. Rome is still the power of the day. So Rome is attacking Jews, right? Scattering them, right? Not only so, from the life of the one they used to call Saul, that they now call Paul, that Jews were attacking these former Jews who now consider themselves Christian. Remember in Acts chapter 9, how it is that Paul was on his way to attack those people who believed in Jesus Christ. Well, this is happening to this group of people. So now, not only are they considered a sub section, if you will, of Judaism, they are scattered. They are part of the diaspora, and Jews are attacking them. Not only so, one more, not only so, but those of you who know Roman history or remember your world history, then you know that Romans were attacking so-called Christians, right? They were using them. They were persecuting so-called Christians. So in our terminology, right, we can say they were catching it from all sides. And so you can see why this particular group of people needed to be encouraged. They needed to be uplifted, right? Because many of them were tempted to go back. They were tempted to go back. They were tempted to go back. They were tempted to go back. Back to what? They were tempted to go back to the old Jewish system of sacrificing animals. They thought they believed in this Jesus, but maybe this thing doesn't work. And so let's go back to what we know, to what we know religiously. Now, what is a trip about that is that we can't be too hard on them because truth of the matter is many of us quite often are tempted to go back. Now, most of the time when we teach like this, we talk about going back to bad habits. I'm gonna go back and start smoking again. I'll go back to start going to doing whatever, wilding out, doing whatever I feel like I can do. But let's be honest, within our faith community, many of us are tempted to go back. Uh, when we first came to Christ, Many of us love God, but we were ignorant. Okay, so that maybe that was just me. Many of us love God, but we were ignorant. And so, as God begins to teach us and send people to teach us and begins to reveal himself more and more to us, give us more revelation, and begins to give us gifts and talents, when we recognize that the higher God takes you, the more your haters come against you. When we realize that the more God gives you, the more frustrating it becomes when people are not trying to live like God wants us to live. When the frustration builds, when the discouragement builds, we're tempted to go back to our old ignorant ways uh, within our faith, right? We're tempted to just go back. You know what? It was easier when I was just sitting on the pew and act like I didn't know anything. When God gives us gifts, right? And we notice that people start hating us because of the gift or the anointing on our life. When we recognize that that having a gift or that God has anointed us to do certain things or to perform certain tasks for Him, it's given us talents such that we just know, right? We understand the times and we know what to do. And people stop inviting you to brunch, and they don't bring you the little gifts anymore, and you don't get the phone calls anymore. Then we start trying to hide our gift, trying to go back. And so that's the reason. Are we still together? Please let me know that we're still together. So that's the reason that we have this particular letter, to encourage those people. Hang in there, persevere, endure, be patient. Don't give up now. In fact, what this letter to the Hebrews is about, and incidentally, just as a side note, the name Hebrews means outsiders. And so I could teach for a whole little while on what it means to be an outsider, but we will keep going. Uh, and so the writer writes to this group of people who are dealing with all that we just spent 10 minutes talking about, right? To encourage them. And he or she uses Jesus Christ as the supreme example, as a point of reference, if you will. So if you're taking notes, I want you to put in your notes this text, Hebrews chapter 4, verses 15 through 16. Put in your notes Hebrews chapter 4, verses 15 through 16. I'll read it for you. It's rather short. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weakness, but we have one who in every respect has been tested as we are, yet without sin. Let us therefore approach the throne of grace with boldness, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in time of need. Remember, this is a letter of encouragement, trying to inspire. Jesus is the point of reference. And in referencing Jesus, the author says to the believers, he portrays Jesus as one who lived by faith. Check it. One who was tested by life, yet one who did not sin or waver from the plan or the purpose of God. Now, this is Jesus, who was all God and all man at the same time. But you must remember that this Jesus was in the flesh on this earth, tempted just like we were, but he lived a life of perfection, of maturity. I need to stick a pin right there, because a brother blessed me today, man, just in sharing in Christian love. And I want to pour into you what he poured into me, that we need to stop calling ourselves sinners, and that we need to stop selling ourselves short, saying that we cannot live up to God's standards. Grace is wonderful. Don't ever scratch grace out your book. But God gave you the ability to live a mature Christian life. You don't have to sin. You don't have to give in. You don't have to talk about God knows my heart. That's all right. Preach, Domain. You don't have to talk about God knows my heart and he knows I'm going to make mistakes. No, we have it in us to discipline ourselves so that we can live as God has assigned us to live. I need you to put that in your notes. I need you to meditate on that. Stop believing the devil when he tells you you can't do it. You can do it. We can do it. I hope that the chat box is kind of quiet right now because you are contemplating what I'm saying. But I tell you what, if you have heard me, if you would put an amen, a yes, Lord, whatever it is, show some response in the box because it's very important that we stop this foolishness, making excuses for our shortcomings. You have everything you need in you to live up to the standard of God. All right, let's keep going. So, what we learn in verses 32 through 34, remember our text is Hebrews chapter 10, verses 32 through 34. And thank you guys for putting that in the chat box. What we learn is the importance of knowing history, the importance of knowing history, and more particularly knowing your history, our history. I know this is kind of a theme that we hear periodically as we come together. I have to keep hammering it home, and I'll show you why. So look at what happens in 32 through 34. The writer says one, he or she suggests one that you were once living in darkness because he said that you were illuminated, right? Then he or she says that you've been through some struggles. Now we don't know if it's talking to the if he or she is talking to the particular readers or if they are talking about foreparents, if you will. So you were once in darkness. You endured struggle and sufferings. Uh, you were made a spectacle by reproaches and tribulations. You became companions, or you had pity on and you had compassion for people who were suffering, right? The writer says, even me, while I was in my chains, uh, you accepted joyfully. You accepted when people went through your stuff and took things from you because you understood that God has something better for you. That's the past. I don't know if you listen to that or if you're reading that along with me, but it's hard to read that particular section without thinking about our own particular history and the sacrifices that were made by our foreparents and our ancestors, particularly now that our media is showing us and we are witnessing the transition and the celebration of life of the Reverend C.T. Vivian and of Congressman John Lewis. I need to stick a pin right there. And yes, I'm going to get on my soapbox for a moment. I want to stick a pin right there. Be careful about believing how the propaganda machine that we call mass media frames our so-called heroes. Remember that they froze Dr. King on the steps of the Capitol, talking about how I have a dream, and we had to dig for ourselves and hear how he felt about the way people were treated and how Black people we had to lift ourselves up and how he opposed the Vietnam War and so forth. They're doing the same thing with John Lewis. They are freezing him on the Edmund Pettus Bridge from Selma to Montgomery, on the way to Selma to Montgomery, as the one who joyously allowed them to bash his head in, and he came back. What they're not telling you is that John Lewis was fiery. In fact, sometimes the powers that be had to change young John Lewis's speeches because he essentially says, if you don't give us what we want, we will burn this mug down. So be careful, do your own research, and don't believe everything that the mass media propaganda machine tells you about people who are our heroes. No doubt he sacrificed, they sacrificed for us, but let us tell our story. I'll keep going. So, what happens in verses 32 through 34 is the fact that history is revisited, right? And it makes us think about those who paid the price for us, those who faced dogs and water hoses and took physical beatings and psychological torment, those who went to prison, who were expelled from schools for sitting down at a corner, at a counter, those who lost their jobs, the bombings that happened. And yet, through all of that, our foreparents, our ancestors persevered and endured, not just for their sakes, but for our sakes as well. That ought to inspire us to do right. I'm going to say that for you again. The knowledge of that ought to inspire us to hang in there, even during this particular dark time in which we're living. We're dealing with personal issues, right? We're dealing with a pandemic. This fool has led a pandemic in our country because he's so jealous of our former president that he broke up the office that was supposed to take care of these issues for us. Not only so, every day there's some foolishness coming out of the White House. It becomes exhausting. It makes you want to throw up both your hands and holler, like Marvin Gaye said. But I came tonight to tell you to hang in there. Don't give up. If our foreparents could deal with the foolishness that they did, then certainly we can hang in there with the advancements that we have right now. Let us keep going. What's clear is that the way forward, even now, is to have an understanding and an appreciation for our history, especially the sacrifices of people that you know, people who are in photo. You all remember photo albums? People who are in photo albums in your grandmother's or your mother's or even your own house. People whose pictures you have taken pictures of and kept in your phone. Remember the sacrifices that they have made. Let's keep going. The writer starts out by saying, or by insinuating, right, that there was once a period of darkness, but God illumined your mind, our minds, your mind, by exposing us to the truth, right? And the truth is Jesus Christ, right? The truth is the Jesus Christ, but not this apolitical Jesus, not this soft, wimpy Jesus, not this hyper spiritual Jesus, not this top down Jesus that they try to give a Jesus who cared about the needs of the people, a Jesus who cared about those that everybody else would not want to deal with, a Jesus who went through and went through what we go through, a Jesus who would stand up when it was time to stand up, who would speak up when it was time to speak up, a Jesus who said, okay, you want to know how to pray? Then pray God set you free from this crooked system, a Jesus who said, give us this day our daily bread, right? A Jesus who said, you brood of vipers, a Jesus who said, you can't take my life, but I'll lay it down. And if I lay it down, then I'm going to pick it up again, right? God opened our minds, shine a light into our consciousness when we learn about this historical African Jesus who became our Christ, right? The thing about the truth is that it will change your life, but it will also make it very difficult to tolerate that which is false, even if it means, right, that not tolerating the lie, the falsehood, means that you will make some enemies along the way. Imagine that. People that you thought were with you, people who you thought were going to go all the way. When you start walking in the truth and not just talking the truth, yeah, you'll notice people will start falling off. But I guarantee you that for every wrong one that falls off, God always has the right one waiting for you. So here's my suggestion. Let's keep it going. Here's my suggestion. I like watching you guys interact in the chat box. Uh, I think that the writer is saying to us that there, as it relates to our walk with God, how we handle dark times, how we deal with tough situations, saying to us that there should be no compromise. Put that in your notes, sear it into your consciousness. It is especially important now that there shall be no compromise. No compromise as it relates to our relationship with God, right? Don't say I'll do it later. Don't try to please man and put God off. No compromise as it relates to our relationship with God. Here's the second one. No compromise as it relates to our pursuit of righteousness. And you can add righteousness to, and you can add to righteousness justice. And you can sum all of that up by saying holiness, right? No compromise as it relates to our pursuit of holiness. First one is no compromise as it relates to our relationship with God. Second one is no compromise as it relates to holiness. Third one is no compromise as it relates to our peace of mind. Get that. No compromise as it relates to our peace of mind. Baby, if you're bringing stress into my life, if you are toxic, it's the listen. I love you, but you can't hang with me right now. This situation is too critical now for me to be playing games with you and trying to please you while I mess up my peace of mind. Here's the next one. There is no compromise as it relates to our future or the future of our past posterity, those who are coming behind us. And so let me give it to you again. No compromise. No compromise as it relates to our relationship with God. No compromise as it relates to our pursuit of holiness. No compromise as it relates to our peace of mind. No compromise as it relates to our future and the future of our posterity. In other words, I'm not meeting you halfway as it relates to what is right for me and those who God has put in our employ. No, I can't give in a little. I can't give in a little. I'm not compromising. I'm not dealing with, I'm not meeting halfway anything or anybody that is doing the work of evil. That means I'm not moving with all deliberate speed. I'm not trying to come to terms with you. I am not settling for taking small steps. I will not bow down to incremental change. When I say I, you put your name in that slot. We are not compromised. We want it to be right. That's the only way. That's the only thing that we will accept. We're not going to say, at least it's getting better. Make it right. In fact, every now and then, you, me, we, us need to look in the mirror and repeat the same thing to ourselves. The one who is walking around in your clothes, make it right. Do it right every time. No compromise. No, I'm working on it. No, I am going to do it right. I hope that you were hearing me. So there is no compromise. Let's go a little further. Check out verse 35. Verse 35 is where we say will be our text of concentration, where it reads, "Therefore, do not cast away your confidence, which has great reward." Check it again, right? Remember, we already said the importance of understanding our history. So we got a lock on that. We understand. We appreciate that. We have already determined that there will be no compromise, right? We are going to get it right. We're going to do it right. And we're going to expect that which is right. And so the author says very poignantly after that, he says, since we hear, then make sure you don't cast away your confidence. Man, I love that phrase. Here's the imagery. You remember the story of blind Bartimaeus begging by the side of the road, and the disciples tried to make him be quiet. And Jesus stopped and called Bartimaeus, and the disciple says he's calling for you. And Bartimaeus, the text says, cast off his cloth, his coat, right? Threw it away from him. That's the imagery here. The writer is saying to them, don't throw away, don't cast away, don't get rid of your confidence. Let's go further because this is good stuff. When he says don't throw away your confidence, the Greek word there is parousia. Parousia. It is Parrhesia. Parousia. Parrhesia. It means boldness. It means to both speak and to act, to live with boldness. Check that out. He says, God gave it to you. It's in your possession. Make sure you don't cast it away. Somebody needed to hear that tonight. Whatever you do, don't cast away, don't get rid of, don't push to the side the courage, the boldness that God has given to you. Can I give you two reasons why? Taken right there from the text. Two reasons why. One, uh, because as it is explained in the text, you have a history of overcoming. You've already been through some stuff that tried to take you out, and God did not let it. Man, you need to hear that. We need to hear that. Maybe we would act with more boldness. Maybe we would stand up a little straighter and put our chin a little higher when we remember recognize and remember, hey, I already been through some stuff. The devil has already tried to kill me. I almost went crazy one time and God saved me, right? I was already on my way to hell and God brought me through. There is no reason for me to give up now. I've already been through metaphorical and literal storms and I made it. God saw me through it. You have already overcome. Here's the second one. The second one is because God promises that he is on your side. Oh, get that. God promises that he is on our side. As long as you're walking in his will and his way, lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the age. So here's my thing, dear heart. Since you are armed, since you have been encouraged to remain bold, to be strong, then I want to tell you this is not the time to shrink back. This is not the time to question your faith. This is not the time to question God and his work, the authority and the ability that he has given to you. No, this is the time to speak up and act up. Speak up and act out in the face of ignorance. Speak up and act out in the face of sin. Speak up and act out in the face of lies. Speak up and act out in the face of injustice and oppression. This is not the time to shrink back. This is the time to show people that God really does take care of his own. Let's keep going. Check it again, because verse 36 reads this way: for you have need of endurance, so that after you have done the will of God, you may receive the promise. For you have need of endurance, so that after you have done the will of God, you may receive the promise. Remember, we started this conversation talking about the recipients to this particular letter. These were people who were tempted to go away from Christ and back to their own ignorance, back to the bondage of a sacrificial system that was not working for them in the first place. So check what happens, right? The author says forcefully, he encourages them, hang in there. Man, don't abandon the plan. Whatever promise God has made to you, it is still good. I want you to hear that again. Whatever promises you are operating on before March of 2020 or February of 2020, The promises of God are still good. COVID-19 can't cancel the promises of God. I hope you hear that. 46 minus 1 can't cancel the promises of God. Whatever personal issues you are dealing with, whatever crisis may be happening in your life where it can go either way, it cannot cancel that thing cannot cancel the promises of God. So that's why the author says you have need of, or let me give you the domain remix. The requirement in all of this is patience. That is to keep the right attitude during your times of struggle and strain. Go through it. Don't try to avoid it. Don't try to go around it. Don't try to get somebody else to deal with it for you. Go through it. I promise you that if God allows you to go through it, there is a reward on the other side. That's what we always say about the 23rd Psalm, that there is a reward. There's a shout on the other side of through. Yea, though I go through the valley of the shadow of death, there's a shout of promise, a reward on the other side. Go through it. Don't try to go around it. Don't try to put it off, right? Don't shrink back from your responsibility. Handle it, baby. You can handle this thing. Don't walk away from it. Let's keep going. See, because some of us are ready to give up because we think that God does not hear us, or it may have even been some years, right? Since you have heard, or you think you have heard from God. It may be some years since you had the vision and it hadn't come to pass yet. Things are not falling into place. In fact, things may look like they are going backwards. God told me to tell you tonight, hang in there. Don't give up now. Keep going through it. Keep going through it because, listen, God's promises are still good. Mm. One thing that God taught me in all of this, man, and over all these years, early on, God taught me that He rewards faithfulness. You should make a big sign and put that on the refrigerator so that you see it every time you go to get something out of the refrigerator. God rewards faithfulness. Don't give out, and it's not too much for you, right? I know you're sick and tired of it. God rewards our faithfulness. I'll give you this and I'm out. So I was still struggling with this, right? Because it seems too neat. Seems like too neat of a package, right? This can't be uh, this simplistic. This can't be this easy, right? And God told me go back and read the same chapter, chapter 10, verse 23. Go back and read chapter 23, where the writer says, let us hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering. Here it is, for he who promised is faithful. And so, in a real sense, God expects faithfulness from us. But what triggers it all is his faithfulness towards us. God is faithful, and he requires of us faithfulness. Check it. So it talks about profession. The profession, what we declare is the death, burial, resurrection, and ascension of Jesus Christ. The death, burial, resurrection, and ascension of Jesus Christ. That's the profession of our hope. That's the profession. The hope is that Jesus is coming back. The profession, the life, death, burial, resurrection, ascension of Jesus Christ. The hope is that Jesus is coming back. But it gets gooder because in the meantime, he has promised us and he gives us salvation and justice in the earthly realm. In fact, I would suggest that some of us wouldn't be here today if God were not practicing salvation and justice while we in our mess or while we get ourselves entangled. No pun intended. So he who promised us is faithful. I'm sorry, man. That's just too funny to me. Entangled. You'll catch it a little later. He who promised is faithful. So that suggests that God is worthy of our trust. Get it? God is worthy of our trust. His word says so. His record says so. Your record, your history says so. And the testimony of the saints all around us say so. He is worthy of us trusting, putting our confidence in him. And since he is worthy, then I want to encourage you, even in this particular season, go ahead, pray like you believe that God is faithful. Go ahead, add to your prayer, work like you believe that God is faithful. Go ahead, teach other people that God is faithful. Go ahead and operate in your gifts. Let it go. Let it all hang out, man. Push it forward like you know that God is faithful. Don't you yield to temptation in this season because you know God is faithful. Last thing, do justice. You know I was going there. Do justice, love mercy, and walk where God walks like you know God is faithful. Listen, all I'm trying to do in this particular season is encourage us. So I'm not trying to be particularly deep. I'm not trying uh, I'm not trying to blow your mind with how much I know. I want us to be encouraged. Listen, because as God pours into you, then He's going to put people in your circle, whether it is electronically or virtually or in person, that you will pour into. So take this, right? Apply it to yourself. And then I want you to teach anybody that will listen to you what God said to you tonight. God bless all of you. I appreciate and love every one of you. I do have a couple of announcements and something exciting that I want to share uh, uh, before we go. But let me give you a couple of announcements first. Uh, Remember, family, that tomorrow we will lay to rest a true saint. Sister Evelyn Price has transitioned to be with the Lord. And so we're going to go and be with our own sister Alice, Alice Fountain, and her family for the celebration of life. It'll be at 10 o'clock tomorrow at D Cell. Now, you know that we're still under some restrictions, so let's all not try to pile in there. But if you'd like to go by, go through, practice social distancing, wear your mask. There will be a visitation from 8 to 10 o'clock, 8 to 10 o'clock, and then we'll start the service at 10 o'clock. I want you all to pray for and check on, show your concern for Sister Sandra Porter. Sister Porter just informed me just this evening, right before we came together, that her brother Ray has transitioned to be with the Lord. And so let's remember Sister Porter in our care, in our prayers, our cares, and our concern. Please, sir and ma'am, check on the sister. You know that it's already dark, and then to deal with the transition of a loved one that you can't necessarily be with during that time of transition is rather tough. I want to thank all of you for your prayers for my mother. My siblings and I don't mean any disrespect when we call her by her first name, when we call her Shirley. Uh, as long as I can remember, we have been, but that's our mother. We love her. We're doing the best we can to take care of her during this particular dark season for her. So please continue to pray for her, us, and thank you so much for those of you who have shown your concern and lifted her in prayer at this time. Now, here's the last thing. Man, it's still coming in the chat box. Thank you so much. Here's the last thing. I need you to get this. I'm very excited about this. We're going to make a little bit of a transition for a while with our smart church starting next Wednesday for the month of August. Smart church is going to take place at noon, at the noon hour. I want you to get it. At the noon hour, um, during at the noon hour during the month of August on Wednesdays. We'll have Smart Church. Smart Church will be at noon on Wednesdays during the month of August. Now at 7 o'clock, Dr. Domain and or myself will review some points that we have shared over over this pandemic period since we've been away from one another. Some things that she and I have just been talking about. Man, I wish I could make that point again. I wish I could show them this clip again, so forth and so on. And so during the month of August at 7 o'clock, she and I will go back and show and you'll see, and we'll talk about some things, perhaps even a little more in depth, if you will. Show some things again. Uh, August at 7 will be kind of a review, if you will. You'll see some highlights, perhaps even some messages uh, from our time during this pandemic. I'm telling you, it's going to be powerful. Please let everybody know. So we'll be teaching at noon, and at 7 o'clock it will be a review of what we've been doing. This is Smart Church, and I should get some amens from the professional teachers. You know that you can't teach students or say something one time and expect students to get it. And so we're going to go back and try to reinforce some things. It's going to be a great month. I want you to encourage everybody you know to join us noon on Wednesdays, and then 7 o'clock on Wednesdays. Noon on Wednesdays, 7 o'clock on Wednesdays. Smart Church is about to be on and popping. I'm telling you. So please be a part. Let everybody you know to be a part of it. I appreciate every one of you. Know, man, that Doc and I love you tremendously. I hope that you have been enjoying this series on God Speaks Through the Arts on Sunday mornings. We're going to present the last part of that series. It is going to be hot. Just a preview. It's going to be God Speaks Through the Dance, right? And we'll use Alex Ailey's dance, American Dance Company, as our jumping point. Is going to be powerful. So look forward to seeing you at 9 o'clock. Um, Sunday morning, Sunday morning, 9 o'clock for our e-worship experience. Don't forget, just before that is Sunday school. I call it Smart Church 2.0 because, man, if you haven't been in there, they are, man, when I tell you they digging in the word and walking out of there like the Bereans, right? The Bereans who knew the word and knew what to do with the word. Check them out, 8 o'clock on Sundays on our virtual platform, 8 a.m. prayer on Monday nights. You can get that. And the sisterhood is together on Thursday nights. Check with the church, check our schedules to see how to connect. Again, for the third time, I love you. I love you, man. Have a wonderful evening. We will see you later. Peace.